Travel back in time to the 80s, reliving the shenanigans.
It was the early 80s, and sex was still a good way to meet new people.
The disappointment.
Now that's a real shame when folks be throwing away a perfectly good white boy like that.
And the self-confidence.
I'm 6 foot, 3 inches tall, and maintain a very consistent panda bear shape.
Because just like you, we're stuck in the 80s.
Sure, it's not 1985 right now, but who knows what tomorrow will bring.
I can't get to sleep. I think about the implications of diving in too deep and possibly the complications, especially...
Hey, welcome to Stuck in the 80s. It's your host, Steve Spears.
And Rad B.
And today we kick off a new year by stripping everything down to the basics and honoring 3 acoustic versions of classic 80s songs.
Day after day it reappears. Night after night my heartbeat shows the fear. Ghosts appear and fade away.
Don't forget, Stuck in the 80s is a member of the CLNS Podcast Network. You can find our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and the CLNS Media mobile app.
And remember, this new CLNS Media website has launched at clnsmedia.com. clnsmedia.com is now the home of this podcast and 40 other podcasts and vidcasts in the world of sports, finance, comedy, and lifestyles. I'm thinking we're comedy? I'm going to go with comedy. Not this show, but normally.
Not that funny.
Support our network by checking out this episode and others at clnsmedia.com. That's clnsmedia.com.
Okay, I just want to warn you that when I wrote this song, I was listening to The Cure a lot.
So we all know the opening tune, Colin Hayes' acoustic version of Overkill, perhaps best known from the TV show Scrubs, but it's also perhaps the best known of all acoustic hits from the 80s. We've been thinking about this for a while now. There are so many amazing versions of 80s hits done acoustically, and so we're going to each pick one today and honor them. But first, Brad has an announcement.
I could not bear the thought of talking to you by myself again, Steve. And so, joining us today, somebody who wishes that the 80s were on her weather channel as well as her podcast channel. From the frozen Northeast, it's Jen with one N.
Frozen is the key word, people. Hello, 80s Nation. It is freaking cold.
How bad? How cold is it?
I just came in from outside as we record this. It's late on a Friday night, and it is, I think, -5.
Oh.
Whoa.
No.
It's not pretty. It's
Wave
not
off.
pretty.
Wave off.
Yeah.
It's about 40 or high 30s here in Florida. Brad?
Right this minute, it's probably in the 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, when I first moved to Maine, I would look at these people and they'd wear shorts when it was 50. And I thought, you people are crazy. And now I'm like, I think I understand what is going on here.
So this is the first show of 2018 for Stuck in the 80s. How did everyone enjoy their holidays?
So my holidays were super chill, but the good chill where you just sit around in your pajamas a lot of the time and hang out. It was really nice. It was super mellow, you guys. What about you, Brad?
Well, we had a little excitement on Christmas Day. My mother-in-law traditionally makes a big prime rib for the whole family, and she always makes Yorkshire puddings. Well, this year, I don't know if you're familiar with how Yorkshire puddings are made, but there's pan drippings that go into like a kind of like a muffin tin, and then the batter goes in there, and you put it in the oven, pop it in the oven, and it cooks. Well, apparently some of the grease got out of one of these tins and onto the floor of the oven, and we look in the oven, and there's a grease fire going inside the oven. Like, well, it's getting smoky in here. And, like, okay, what do we do? And I'm like, just leave it closed. It'll burn out. There's not that much grease. And Katie was not having it. So she reached into her mother's pantry and grabbed like the big container tub of flour, opened up the oven, and I'm like, not flour, slow motion, silo explosions. And she just dumps 5 pounds of flour into the oven, which, to her credit, instantly smothered the flame. Instantly. It's gone out. And then the house filled with smoke. So I'm like waving with like gift boxes and waving the smoke towards open windows. My brother-in-law goes out in the garage and gets a leaf blower and is using that to blow.
Oh my God.
It was amazing. So we also found out her smoke detectors don't work that day.
Oh, uh-huh.
So, that was exciting. And then after that kind of calmed down, the food tasted so good because everyone's adrenaline was just like charging, It's just like, oh, this is the best breakfast. So,
oh my gosh.
So then the next day, Karma came to visit me, and I got a chance to finally pay back a debt to Karma. When I was maybe in my early 20s, I went to visit my older sister. And at the time I was living in some apartment where I had to pay for laundry. So she's like, oh, bring your laundry. So as I was leaving, I went to go and get the last load out of the dryer as I was about to drive back home. And I realized that I had run an entire pack of Big Red gum through her dryer. And it was just plastered all over the inside of her dryer. And I'm like, oh, sorry about that. Gotta go.
Oh, no.
Bye.
And then Katie threw flour in it.
So I got to spend the day after Christmas disassembling my mother-in-law's oven and cleaning 5 pounds of flour out of it because it got everywhere. I didn't realize ovens came apart in that many pieces. So
wow, that's amazing.
So that was fun. That's my Christmas excitement.
During my break, I have to just say this, that I wasn't entirely lazy. I was actually learning things too, because I did watch many episodes of the Great British Baking Show, and they made Yorkshire pudding, and I didn't realize how difficult it was.
That's a great show.
Well, I'm sure it was tasty. Well, speaking of stripping ovens down to their core, today we're going to strip the 80s hits down to their core. In May 2006, there was an album released called 80s Hits Stripped. It's out of print now, but it had 15 amazing acoustic renditions of classic 80s songs, a couple of which we'll honor today. But speaking of the new year, this is a perfect time to announce that HelloFresh is returning as a sponsor for Stuck in the 80s for all of 2018. I can't be more happy because I love their meals. As I mentioned about 6 months ago, even my doctor commented on how all my tests came back so much improved after I went on HelloFresh, which delivers 3 meals each week to my doorsteps. Well, I went again to my doctor last week, right before the holidays, which I guess is better than going right after the holidays. And he was happy to tell me that my cholesterol levels are all back to normal and I might be able to come off those meds before his next visit. And I'm not the only Stuck in the 80s person who loves it. Robin Lagana, a longtime Stuck in the 80s listener who subscribed to HelloFresh after hearing about it on the show, she wrote me yesterday and said how much she was enjoying her plan. Her first meal were these Parmesan chicken strips with the rosemary potatoes and green beans. And she said the recipe was easy enough that even her husband could cook it. Like me, no, seriously. I mean, I'm actually a good cook. I will.
You'll cop to that?
Brag about that. But like me, her husband needs to shy away from eating the red meat. So being able to pick your own meals each week from HelloFresh is a big win. I do avoid the red meat. Actually, I've even switched lately to the vegetarian plan just to give it a shot, see if I can eat a little bit healthier. It's so easy to do. All you do is you go to their website, you just make a click. Okay, I don't want the classic plan. I want vegetarian. That's all you have to do. The first meal I got, spiced cauliflower mac and cheese with a mixed green salad. It was incredible. I got like 3 meals out of it.
It sounds good.
It was fantastic. Plus, we all know we get busy from time to time, especially during the holidays and like this month we're all traveling and stuff like that. The cool thing about HelloFresh is you can pause the account. You just go to the website, you click skip week, and that's it. You don't have to like provide a reason or do anything like that. Just hit skip week, move on. And because you're a listener of Stuck in the 80s, we want to give you the incentive to try HelloFresh. For $30 off your first week of HelloFresh, just go to HelloFresh.com, enter promo code RADICAL30. That's HelloFresh.com, promo code RADICAL30. Trust me, you're going to love it just like I do. Speaking of total love and adoration, I'm so excited about this week's topic. We've been talking about this for months now. I don't think we've teased about it a little bit on the show. New year, new shows, new great sponsorship from HelloFresh. So let's dive right into it. The acoustic version of classic 80s songs. Brad, get us started. What's your pick?
Steve, my pick this week is The Walk by The Cure.
I kiss you in the water.
That particular version is from The Cure's appearance on MTV Unplugged, which aired on January 24th, 1991. Sorry, just across the border from the 80s.
Okay.
But
That's okay.
It's an 80s song. It's an 80s song. But when we started talking about acoustic stuff, my mind just goes straight to MTV Unplugged. It didn't start until the very end of the decade. It started November of 1989, just under the wire. But there were a ton of 80s artists that appeared on the show. You know, The Cure, R.E.M., Sting are ones that I really remember. But they also had a lot of kind of rockers on there. Rat was on, Poison was on, and you get some pretty interesting performances there. But the reason I wanted to start with this song is because I thought it was really clever. You know what a sucker I am for clever. I thought it was really clever the way The Cure got around the fact that they couldn't use synthesizers in this set. And on this version of The Walk, they recruited members of the audience to come and play kazoo to cover the main synth line.
Nice.
All right, that's pretty clever.
Yeah, I thought so too. I mean, that's just pointed right at me. Come on. I'm going to eat that up.
Not the bassoon.
No, never the bassoon, sir. Never the bassoon.
I like this. It's fun. It is The Cure at its most whimsical.
And yet also depressing.
You know, they actually are touring 2018, I think, on their 40th anniversary tour.
Seriously?
Wow.
And they're doing a show in London. Like, they're doing some, like, main festival show that basically is, you know, for them. You know, they're the headliner, everything. And they're playing, like, at least a 2-hour show. And they say, I guess, for the last couple of tours, that they practice about 90 songs so that during the tour, like, the set list could change that dramatically any given night, that they know 90 songs that they could play.
Wow.
Cameron and I saw them at the Hollywood Bowl, I think a couple of summers ago now, and I got to tell you, they sounded amazing. Robert Smith is not the Robert Smith you remember from the 80s, but he sounds like the Robert Smith from the 80s, and the band was tight. And it was a great night.
They're still on my list of bands to see, so maybe 2018 is my lucky year.
It's encouraging to me that they're 40 years in and they're still trying. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
they're
they're not putting the same
in
set. Yeah,
exactly, and they're putting in the time and the energy to give a good show. That's awesome.
Sure,
yeah. You know what, Jen? Now that I think about it, like, they didn't take a break. Like, they just played and played and played and played. It was great.
Nice.
I couldn't recommend seeing them more highly.
Jen, what's your pick for the first round of our acoustic classic show?
I picked Jesse's Girl by Rick Springfield.
Jesse is a friend. Yeah, I know he's been a good friend of mine. But lately something's changed. It ain't hard to define. Jesse's got himself a girl. I wanna make her mine. And she's watching him with those eyes. And she's loving him with that body. I just know it. And he's holding her in his arms late, late at night. You know, I wish that I had Jesse's girl. I wish that I had Jesse's girl. Where can I find a woman like that?
This version of Jesse's Girl is on that acoustic album that you mentioned at the top of the show, and I love it. I just love this song. And I feel like I guess this is true of any song that goes from electric to acoustic, but I feel like this one, for me, it gives new life to this song that I've heard millions of times since I was 8 years old. Mm-hmm. And he's performed it a lot. He performed it in South by Southwest in 2013 when I was looking around for versions of this song. He played it on the CBS morning show in like 2009. But,
nice.
But he still plays it in concert. He continues to do full band shows and solo shows, which he actually calls stripped down. And he's still touring. He's going to be touring all this year, including performing some of these stripped down solo shows. In fact, when this drops, he'll have just performed in New Jersey and he'll be performing in New York later in the week.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I'm certain this is his finale. I mean, it's got to be, right?
No, I've seen him perform like 3 or 4 times live.
Yeah.
Now, granted, it's been maybe 6 years since I've seen him, but normally this comes in the middle of the set.
Ah, okay.
Now, I will say,
refreshing.
the song itself, not the acoustic version.
Okay.
I've not seen him play the acoustic version in concert, but he does play the regular version, and he kind of milks the very beginning of it. Like, he plays the first couple of notes. Everyone goes screaming and stuff, and then he plays the next couple of notes. And I think
he looks up, looks around.
Oh my God!
I remember this one.
But I don't remember what he ends with. But it's usually not Jesse's Girl. So
okay, good. That's kind of nice.
He goes to the 80s cruise, and because he's the host And I think he's doing multiple sets. I will almost guarantee it that he does the acoustic version on the 80s cruise.
I would love to see an acoustic set from him. That would be really fun.
Yeah, for sure. And not just Jesse's Girl, but other songs too. I bet he does.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God. All his songs would sound good. I mean, that's the way he wrote them. So why wouldn't they sound good, that way? So it'll be fun. It'll be a lot of fun.
Right. And I'm not a huge country western fan, but I love that little slide guitar at the beginning, especially. Yeah. It's got that little country twang kind of thing. I think is really fun. I think I might have mentioned this in another show about this song. I love this song no matter what version plays. And I told my husband this once. I told him that I love this. This song is perfect. It's like a perfect pop song to me. And he said that he thinks any song with the word moot in it is not cool. And then I was like, okay. I know. But I remember when I was 8 listening to it, I had no idea what he was singing when he said, you know how you get lyrics wrong. But I did not know what the word moot meant when I was 8 years old. So I'm not sure what fake word I threw in there to sing along. But yeah, I love this song, even if it's got the word moot in it. I don't care.
I love this song because it has the word moot in it.
This could be the exception that proves the rule.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Tell him we said that, and we know stuff.
Yeah, we do.
So much stuff.
So here's my pick for classic 80s songs. One of the first bands that I kind of got hooked on in the 80s was Asia. And so it's natural that, when all else fails, I come back to home with Heat of the Moment by John Wetton.
I never meant to be so bad to you. One thing I said that I would never do. One look from you now would fall from grace. And that would wipe the smile right from my face.
We lost Asia's lead singer, John Wetton, in 2017. He passed away back in January, and he definitely deserved his own memorial episode of this podcast, and we didn't do it.
We just couldn't get Steve out of the bathroom. He was in there sobbing for weeks.
Not too far from the truth. But I think we were kind of consumed at the time because we were getting ready for the 80s cruise, which back then was in early February. So we were racing to get that done. I know for a fact we only did one show last January.
Yeah.
Heat of the Moment, the original version anyway, was the first release from the supergroup's first album.
It was the heat of the moment, telling me what my heart meant.
It was the first album I got on cassette, and my parents bought it for me for Christmas that year. We were at my grandmother's place in Ohio. We lived in Florida at the time, but we had to go up there to Columbus. So I'm like, how old would I have been? Like 14 years old, maybe?
14, yeah, maybe 15.
And so, I mean, I'm in Columbus, Ohio. I have no car. So I basically listened to this album, like start to finish on the cassette so many times. I think I wore it out before I even got home. It was written by John Wetton and keyboardist Jeff Downes. It spent 6 weeks atop the rock charts in 1982. Oh, and by the way, the lyrics, and now you find yourself in 82. A lot of people think that refers to the year the song was released because it was indeed 82. But John Wetton once said it actually refers to a specific venue he once played. So that's kind of weird. He was one of the people I always really wanted to interview. I did get a chance to interview Carl Palmer, the drummer, once. But John Wetton, like, his songs were so morose, I had to interview him. I never got a chance.
I bet he talked in rhyme, too.
Maybe. He definitely talked.
I have to say, this version of this song is so Spearsy. It is so Spearsy. And I love this, but it is such a different... It's just a different tone. It's a completely different take on the song. And it's, it's one of the things we talk about when we talk about covers, how when people do covers, I like it when they bring something different to the party.
Yes.
Like, don't just re-sing it. Don't give me a karaoke version. Give me something different. And I feel like they did in this version. And I love this version. And the other thing I'll say is, you talk about not understanding lyrics. I had no idea that he said, and now you find yourself in 82 until I heard this version of it.
Right. I like to always think of it as being atmospheric. There's just something about it that doesn't quite seem like it's the same. We're not on the same level.
It's not an anthem. It's more introspective.
You listen to the full thing all the way through. It's just, and a lot of acoustic songs that we're going to cover over the next few months, because this is not going to be the only episode of shows that we do about acoustic songs. This is merely the first. A lot of these will be live performances like this one was. That's just the way it is. This is the first of many. This acoustic version does appear on the 80s Hit Stripped album. It was recorded, we believe, in 1996 while Wetton was away from Asia. He did have a significant solo career, but he would often perform this acoustic version of his Asia hit when he toured solo.
Is this version a little slower?
Yeah, a step or two. It goes to like, I kind of think of it as it goes on the pace that he's at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
He's just kind of taking his time and enjoying the song.
Yeah.
You know what I'd like to take my time and enjoy right now? The Seggies. Hey, it's time for listener mailbag. This week, we're going to let Jen read the email because Brad is tragically under the weather.
Aww.
We don't have any weather in California, but somehow I've managed to get under it.
This letter's from Basil in Crofton, Maryland.
All right, here we go. Dear Brad and Steve, I have been listening since the very beginning in 2005 and have enjoyed every single episode, though some more than others. Say, when are you having Tom Wopat back on the show?
Ouch.
Mm-hmm. Zing. Being born in 1964, I kind of straddle the late 70s and early 80s where music is concerned. But working in a movie theater for 3 years in college during the middle 80s definitely puts me in the thick of that very distinct time in American film. I always worked the midnight show at the University of Maryland Student Movie Theater and recall we were showing Stop Making Sense, the Talking Heads concert movie. I love that movie. At one point, a couple dozen students jumped up on stage and began slam dancing, and my manager told them to get the hell off the stage before they hurt something. To my untrained and naive eye, I thought they were possessed, as I had never seen anything like it before. They scared me, so I refused. I didn't lose my job, but the boss was pissed. Anyway, you said in this past week's show to send you letters, quote, especially those of heartbreak and agony, unquote. Well, I experienced both this very Christmas night, thanks to B-Rad. Oh, God. All of my kids were in the other room playing video games or on their phones, so I pulled out my iPad, brought up YouTube, and said to my wife, this Christmas show came highly recommended by some podcasters I listened to. You got it. The Alf Christmas special. Oh, gosh.
Let the record state, I did not recommend this show to anybody. I did not represent this show. I have not seen this show. Don't put this crap on me, Basil.
Okay, I'll allow it. For the next 45 minutes, my wife and I sat beside our Christmas tree's warm glow while Alf took out our hearts and stomped on them like a cat he seemed so willing to eat. Among the sadness and emotional distress you gave us was, 1, a dying little girl who draws herself with wings because she knows this is her last Christmas. 2, Cleavon Little planning to end it all since his wife just died. And 3, a woman in labor trapped in an elevator with only a furball puppet to help her who, by the way, convinces her to name the baby he somehow delivers the same name as the dying girl.
Wow.
Oh, my God. Okay. A reminder, this was during Christmas night, a reminder where we are here.
Merry Christmas,
and
everyone.
even the fact that when Alf saves George on the bridge and uses the exact same dialogue as the same scene in It's a Wonderful Life as sort of an homage pales in comparison to the final credits. When you think that this emotional assault is over, you find out the entire episode is dedicated to a real girl who passed away that same year. Who does this sort of stuff? Anyway, thanks for the recommendation. It was truly awful, and we enjoyed every minute of it. Next up,
then I take all the credit. Yes. Give me the credit. Give me the credit.
Next up, a He-Man and She-Ra Christmas special. Until then, let's save that for next year. You shouldn't do 2 in 1 year. Until then, I remain hopelessly stuck in the 80s. Basil rhymes with Tazzle in Crofton, Maryland.
Wow.
Ay, that was brave.
I got to admit, I was putting together that the clips for that Christmas episode, and Mike Pajaro, who actually did cover that special, had given me these clips, like, from this moment till this moment. And so I went to it and watched them, and as I'm trying to, edit the audio in there, and I was weeping at my terminal, which is not unusual, but this time it was because of a puppet. And that was definitely one of the most depressing episodes to add together, says the man who did the Breaking Up in the 80s episode. So
I listened to that episode, and I was like busily doing Christmas shopping, and I was in the grocery store in the produce section, and I was like out loud said, "Oh my God," like listening to the description of how horrible. Anyway, thanks for the letter. That was awesome.
Who knew that show was going to go in that direction, but it did. Anyway, we love your letters, especially ones of despair and agony and pain. Send them to podcast@sit80s.com. The mystical refrain that is, I want my mystery TV theme song. We will play a snippet of a theme song from a TV show from the 80s. If you get it right, you're into the drawing for we still have the bottle openers with emblazoned with the glorious logo of Stuck in the 80s.
I have a fair backlog to send out, but yes, I do still have some.
Yeah. Hey, and if you want to buy something of your own, you can always go to sit80s.com/store, and we have special Stuck in the 80s t-shirts, and we have just like regular 80s t-shirts that are pretty cool, that aren't super nerdy with our logo on them, but just like only just halfway nerdy. Like Tron stuff, Last Starfighter, that kind of stuff. Modern grade. So anyway, pay attention. Here's the clip from our last show. Yep, that's Mork and Mindy.
Steve, you finally picked something that I actually watched.
Most of the show actually happened in the 70s. Only a couple years overlapped into the 80s.
Maybe that's why. I love this show.
It was fun. Of course it was.
I loved it too. Can someone help me out with the show real quick? So there's that last episode where the bad guy, for lack of my memory is failing me a little bit here, but it was after Mirth was born, Jonathan Winters was born, Mork's son, and then there was this episode where Mork was about to die, or the world was going to end because of this. I'm trying to remember who the character was. He was on Murphy Brown too, but it literally ends that way. But there's no other. So I've watched it in syndication when I was growing up, 3 or 4 times through.
Well, what happens at the very end is Hawkeye flies away. And BJ has spelled out the words goodbye and stones down in the
that makes sense. No, that makes sense. Okay, thank you for clearing that up.
Okay. Brad,
if anybody knows what happens at the end of that show,
please somebody explain it to us via email, because I didn't see it either. Brad, read some of the winners.
Winners this week include Tim from Toadsuck, Joseph Perdue, Eric Newell, Anastasia in Colorado, Jeffro Tilley in Australia, Greg Kaiser, Jay Swash in Beaver Creek, Dave Augie August, Dave and Carol Parrott. They emailed individually to give them winners. Sorry, guys. 1 entry per household. Kevin Serving Wench, Brenda in Framingham, Mass, Rob Saints. I'm sorry, Rob S. Jeff Rocks in Indiana, Tom Korn in Austria, Scott in New Hampshire, Dave Dirt, Stony Stitt, Buckeye Girl, and Gabriel Daigle.
Okay, let's spin the wheel and find out who wins the bottle opener. Never gets old. Okay, and it's going to come to a conclusion on Buckeye Girl. You are this week's winner, so just
excellent.
Email us your snail mail address, and we will send you a bottle opener. In the meantime, pay attention. Here's this week's mystery TV theme song. If you know it, email us at podcast@sit80s.com and tune in next week to find out if you're a winner. We'll be right back after this commercial break. We're back. We got just a few minutes left. I thought, let's play an old game that we've sadly forgotten here. What's your 80s obsession? Jen, what is your 80s obsession this week?
Well, I am very excited about this because I just discovered it last night, but I am truly obsessed with it. So I had mentioned in an earlier episode how I've been watching The Americans and trying to catch up. It's season 6, which is the final season, is going to air in a couple of months. So I'm trying to catch up and I'm so close to being there. Yeah. But I just discovered a companion podcast on the Slate TV Club. I think it's just called The Americans on Slate TV Club. It is so awesome, you guys. It's, I think the first few episodes or several episodes are hosted by the script supervisor. Oh, wow. And she is talking to people like the creator of the show, Joe Weisberg, and one of the producers, I think his name is Joel Fields. Anyway, she talks to them. She talks to the actors. She talks to the costume designers because I have mentioned my love for the clothing on this show.
It is really well done.
She talks to the music guy. I mean, it really gets into behind the scenes of a TV show. And
it's really cool that they got somebody at that level who could pull those people in. That's great.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. And I mentioned there's 5 seasons. It starts, the podcast only starts in season 3. So I think by that time they had sort of found their mojo and got a lot of support and everybody realized what a brilliant show that is. But I was listening to the first episode last night. The script supervisor is talking to the 2 guys who run the show, and they're talking about the detail to which they plan the episodes in terms of being faithful to the 80s. So they literally have the episode that you're talking about, they locate it in a time, but not just a time, like they pick a day or a week or however long that episode might be. For example, if somebody's watching a show, they figure out what date that is in 1982, what time it is, and what they could be watching at 10:45 at night.
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
That's good.
Amazing. Like they're so faithful. And me too. Like it's beyond, how like a movie or a show will play some 80s sounding songs, no matter what time of the era it is. I'm looking at you, 13 going on 30. The Americans doesn't do that, but I had no idea how deeply and committed they are to making this real, not just historically, but just in feeling and stuff like that. And the 2 guys who made it are like our age. So they, they're like, oh, we got to get that football video game, the hand football video game. Like we need to get our hands on that because this is what he would be playing in this era. But yeah, so specific, so great. And they're all really smart and funny. So I highly recommend 1A, watch The Americans. 1B, listen to this podcast. It's a lot of fun.
Jen, for those who want to catch up on The Americans, where can they find it online?
So the first 5 seasons are on Amazon Prime. And I think that's it. And they're probably available in DVD.
Excellent.
Well worth it. I mean, I feel like after the whole show ends, I might want to go back and rewatch them.
I do it all the time. Brad, what's your 80s obsession?
My 80s obsession this week is an obvious one, I think. Released yesterday, the Breakfast Club Criterion Collection version.
Nice.
Yeah, so I don't know. You probably saw some news about this before the holidays, that it was coming out and that there was going to be a bunch of extended scenes and deleted stuff that was going to be packaged with it. And I turned to my family and said, well, it looks like they finally figured out a way to get me to buy another copy of this movie. I'm really interested to see all the extra features on it. There's some essays with John Hughes production notes. There's a documentary with the cast and the crew. And like I said, there's almost an hour of deleted and extended scenes. And some of me kind of thinks, well, there's a reason they were maybe deleted. Like they didn't move the story or they just didn't really fit with the way John Hughes decided to go with the movie. But I still think it will be interesting just from a historical perspective to see the stuff he shot.
Of course.
Is this an anniversary year for the movie, Brad?
No, I don't believe so.
It is not.
I'm just wondering why they would release it so early in the year. Like, why not release it at Christmas when Jen can get a copy for a gift?
On January 2nd. Yeah, well, because
that's
kind
of
odd. Start your Christmas list early, or birthday, or Valentine's Day, or
I would bet it's a legal thing where they didn't have the rights to release another version until 2018.
Mm-hmm.
When they did the first possible day.
Could very well be.
So here's my 80s obsession. We have reunion news. The Stray Cats have announced that they're going to get back together and perform for the first time in 10 years. Slim Jim Phantom, Brian Setzer, and Lee Rocker will have to comb their pompadours back into form for an April 21st show at the Orleans Hotel in Las Vegas. It's not like an 80s weekend or anything like that they're headlining. It's the Viva Las Vegas Rockabilly Weekend.
Whoa.
Which includes performances by Jerry Lee Lewis, as well as pinup contests, burlesque shows, and jiving lessons. And I don't even want to know. The bigger question is, will this kickoff reunion show be part of a larger reunion tour? We'll find out, because there's plenty of opportunities. There's plenty of people out there who would love to see the Stray Cats strut their stuff one more time.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
In the meantime, like I said, this is the first of many shows, we believe, about acoustic hits of our 80s classics. So if you have a favorite, email us in your suggestions, and we will consider them for future shows.
I feel like cool stuff can be uncovered,
Right.
like somebody's got a hidden gem or something.
Yeah. So send us a YouTube link too, especially if you've got one. Let's make this fun. We'll make it interactive. In the meantime, we remain here right with Colin Hay and Men at Work, hopelessly stuck in the 80s.
Day after day it reappears.
Stuck in the 80s is a member of the CLNS Media Network. Special thanks to Check Battery Daily for our theme music. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or the CLNS Media mobile app.